Yes, everyone, what's going on? My name is Stephen Howson. This is Full-Time Devils. Today joined by Angelina, John Shin and Jay Motty, and we are going to be talking, it's a big debate, isn't it? Or even a huge debate, or like an average-sized debate, depending on how you want to throw it together. United need reinforcements. January window is an opportunity that we're probably not going to take to bring in those reinforcements. But let's pretend we live in a world where it's all happy days, where we've got owners who give a shit, and we might actually buy a player in January. Now, if you can go with me on that fantasy, then we can pretend that we're going to sign someone, and these three are going to argue about who we are going to sign. So without further ado, I'm going to go Angelina. Who is the player that Manchester United definitely should be signing to improve us in January?
So for me, I've gone for Florentino Luis. He's a 20-year-old that has come through the Benfica ranks through the youth academy. I think the Benfica youth academy kind of speaks for itself. So many great players have come from it. He's already had some good success with the national team, under 17s and under 19s. And I think it's also quite good that despite his age, he's been through a few trying times with Benfica. When he came into the squad in January, February time, there was a few issues with managers, stuff like that. He's already kind of dealt with things like that. Playing wise, his ability to recover possession is pretty good. He's got a good physical presence. He's been likened a lot to Kante for his abilities to kind of get into good positions and stuff like that. And for a 20-year-old, he's got quite good composure. Although he's more of a defensive midfielder and maybe he's still got a little bit of work to do with his attacking form, I think it's still, he's moving in the right kind of direction. And I think that he, is a really good prospect for the future. He's also obviously a young player, just what United want. The fact that City are after him, if we were going to get him, that would just make it a little bit better for me. And yeah, the only issue, which I'm sure everyone's going to debate, is his release clause is absolutely ridiculous. But if we're doing this in a fantasy land, then yeah, he'd be great.
See, we're going head to head with City again, potentially, over another player. That's never gone wrong, has it?
No, never. Not to my recollection, anyway.
Fred and Sanchez. Anyway, lads, you two want to jump in and tell her why she's talking shit?
Go on, John. I'll let you go first.
I think it's a great option, but given the current circumstances around Manchester United, I mean, we already saw how many players were leaving this transfer window, and some of these players have been needing to have been gone for quite some time. I don't even know what I just said there, but my point is we are at a transition period wherein the club is really making big moves with respect to transfers, both ins and outs, and I just don't see us spending that much money making that kind of move in the January transfer window. I mean, we had an unstable, volatile, crazy transfer window in the summer, and I just don't see that. I just don't see us splashing that much cash in January. I would love to see it happen. I absolutely would love to see it happen, given the lack of depth in the squad right now, especially.
John, you're arguing against your own case here, not necessarily arguing against Angelina's. You're arguing against the whole idea that we're going to sign anyone. Look, we all know we're not signing someone, but let's play pretend for a minute. Now just tell Angelina why her pick is shit and then move on.
Well, okay, we're not gonna pick her shit. We're gonna pick my shit. All right, that's it. That's it. That's just it.
All right, thanks for your help, John. Jay, tell her why she's shit.
Listen, I know that we've got this sort of ethos now, apparently, of buying young up-and-coming players. Well, although Harry Maguire's not young up-and-coming, but Daniel James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But the difference with sort of Daniel James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, especially Aaron Wan-Bissaka, is we knew what he could do at Premier League level, and we knew what Daniel James, we saw him briefly against City. We knew that sort of the raw talent was there, and it wasn't a big gamble for 15 million quid going up to, I think it's 18. You're talking big money for a player who's still very young and has done really well in Portugal. Now, he might go on to have a great career, but it's such a gamble. And I think it's at a time when we don't need to be gambling as well. Like, we need to be bringing in young players that have had a little bit of Premier League experience or a little bit of top-level experience, unless we're going to sort of pay the 15, 20 millions for them. If we're going to spend big money on an unproven 20-year-old, it's just another risk. And if he doesn't work out, then we're going to left with a midfield of, Fred, Pereira, and when Pogba goes, another youngster who's not up to the job. It's just a massive gamble for me, and it's certainly not a gamble worth taking in January. So if we are going to make a January signing, I wouldn't be buying a 20-year-old kid from Benfica who's never kicked a ball in the Premier League.
There we go. That's how it's done, John. Pay attention. Right, Jay, who are you going for and why?
I'm going to go for James Maddison. Now, I know people say, oh, well, what we do, just raiding Leicester, is that our new thing? But we know what we know what he can do in the Premier League. He's proven. He's sort of at that age as well where he's going to improve. He's not a youngster. I think he's 24. But he is going to get better. We know that. I think he's got. Is it the second most assists in the top 5 leagues in Europe?
It was chance created. If you're going to borrow people's stats,
chance created. Yes. Listen, I've not borrowed that. I read it this morning on a piece of paper. And I think that we know that James Maddison. We know he's a quality player. He's an entertaining player. And if, as I expect, Paul Pogba leaves in the summer, then James Maddison. He's not as good as Paul Pogba. I'm not saying he is, but he's a similar type of player. I think he's that attacking midfielder who, if we get him in January, he gets a few months under his belt. Then when Paul Pogba leaves, we've got a player who's got Premier League experience, who's got experience at Manchester United, or a little bit of experience at Manchester United, and who is a force to be reckoned with. He's a player that creates chances, creates goals, and who will get better as well. And that's the type of player we need to be looking at. And also, he's gettable. We can get players from Leicester. We might have to pay a lot of money for him, but we can get him where other Premier League proven players we might struggle to get. We're not going to get players from Manchester City or even Arsenal anymore, are we? Probably for the best. But someone from Leicester, it's doable, and a player like that, it ticks all the boxes, really.
John, tell him why he's full shit.
No, James Maddison's a great option, but it's just not likely. It's not going to be something that we're going to be splashing even more cash for somebody like James Maddison in this transfer window, in the January transfer window. I think he's only just joined Leicester. He's probably had one season, and it's gonna cost a hell of a lot of money to wrestle away another Leicester City player, and it just doesn't sound likely. I would love to have somebody like James Maddison. I think we should move for him in the summer, but I just don't see it happening this transfer.
Why can't we go back to Leicester?
We could, but obviously Manchester United's transfer business policy is absolute horseshit. So I don't know if we're going to be able to manage ourselves to really dive in this market in the January transfer window for somebody of quality and somebody that's marketable and somebody that's profitable as James Maddison. I just don't think that's going to be an option.
Angelina, tell Jay why his pick sucks.
Probably similar reasons. I mean, to be honest, with Maddison, he is a good player. I can't really deny that. But it is just the amount of money, because I feel like, we've already taken Maguire. I think they're maybe going to look at it and think, right, well, we got big money for him. We can just go even further with this one. I think as well, maybe it would be nice to have somebody, I mean, not saying we're going to be in the Champions League or anything, but it would be nice if we had somebody with a bit of European experience as well. But yeah, I think money-wise, it's just going to be too much.
Fred had European experience.
Sanchez had European experience.
Di Maria had European experience.
Falcao had it as well.
Anyway, John, do you want to give us your pick?
Yeah, speaking of European experience, I went for a little bit of an eyebrow raiser. I'm going for Christian Eriksen. Now, the only reason why I'm going for somebody as coveted as Christian Eriksen, especially trying to pry him away from a Daniel Levy at Spurs, is going to be a hell of a challenge. But I think this is a little bit more of a viable option given the current situation surrounding Christian Eriksen. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, Christian Eriksen tried to move away from Spurs this past transfer window. It didn't work out, and unfortunately, he's had to stay. He's even publicly expressed a little bit of disappointment. And while I think Christian Eriksen is a professional player, I think there is something in the cards. I believe his contract's over in the summer of 2020, which means that he might have the option of moving on a free. And I think Daniel Levy, knowing him, knowing the entrepreneur and the asset maker that he is, I think he would definitely rather see Christian Eriksen going for a fee as opposed to sending him on a free.
Jay, Angelina, tell him why he's talking shit.
Right, well, for starters, Christian Eriksen wanted to leave Spurs. He didn't want to come to Manchester United, who just finished sixth. I think one of the reasons he wanted to leave Spurs, who just got to a Champions League final, was he had bigger ambitions. So leaving a club that's just got to the Champions League final to go to a club that's just finished sixth makes no sense whatsoever. Also, if I'm being honest, we were linked with Eriksen when he was at Ajax. Didn't really fancy him then. He went off the boil at the end of last season, big time. He went missing for the last 3 or 4 months. A lot of the Spurs fans were slagging him off. So is he massively going to improve us? I don't think so. And if we are looking for a long-term replacement for Paul Pogba, I just don't see Eriksen doing that at all. So I don't think we can get him, and I don't think he's good enough. There's my 2 main reasons.
Angelina?
I think for me, the main thing is that there's going to be other clubs kind of after him. Like, there's so many rumours going around, and kind of like what Jay said, you want somebody that wants to play for United. And I think that there's been rumours before and kind of whispers of him potentially moving and all this kind of stuff. You know, he's never really seemed like United would be a place he'd want to go to, especially with the whole finishing sixth. So I don't think it's a viable kind of idea, really.
Right then, that's what they've got to say. Let us know in the comments as well what you think on those initial arguments. You've now got to have 30 seconds to make your case. You can choose it to absolutely destroy someone else's, or you can give the reasons why your player is the one. Before we get into this, I think it's well important that everyone's identified a midfielder. There's a 6, an 8 and a 10, more or less there, that everyone's identified, which I think just shows how badly United need reinforcements in midfield. If we think that there's actually 3 midfielders that we could bring in and they're all in totally different positions. So I think that if we are going to be bringing someone in January, it'd be a bloody good idea to get a midfielder in, wouldn't it? But before we get into all of that lot, 30 seconds on the clock. Angelina, you're going first. Your time starts now.
So for me, my option I think is the best one because he's young. He's a great option because let's face it, Pogba is going, so he's going to be a great kind of young player to come in. I think he's got a lot of good qualities. He hasn't even peaked yet, so there's a lot that could come from him. And I also think the fact that he's been likened to people like Kante is never a bad thing. And obviously, if we get him over City, that for me would make me happy. So
Stop.
I've done 30 seconds.
Jay?
30 seconds.
Go.
Right. Well, for starters, we know we need midfielder, and I think we need an attacking midfielder as well. And James Maddison is certainly that. He's a gettable player. I think we can always get players from Leicester. We've proven that in the summer. He's got the Premier League experience we need. He's young-ish, so he fits that sort of Glazenomics model of being able to buy someone that, if you did want to sell him on, you could do, which means that it's more of a realistic target. And he's going to bring chances to the team. We know that Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial are going to kick on. We expect more from them, but they need chances, and he's a player that can provide for those players.
Can we strike that last word off the record, please?
What?
John, go.
Angelina and Jay both mentioned that it's going to be difficult to pry away somebody that's played in the Champions League final, but I think it's going to be difficult to sign any player with potential and quality against the buttload of competition that's out there. And I think somebody like Christian Eriksen is somebody that we can exploit given his current contract situation and given Daniel Levy's desire to want to make money off of any sale. And I think really having somebody that can potentially, for the temporary, foreseeable future, be a replacement for Paul Pogba will be an absolute bargain to sign.
Stop.
I choked at the end there with a little bit of spit, sorry.
Right, these lot have had their say. 3 very good players. Some Premier League proven. I'm going to rule out Luis because I just don't think United are going to spend 90 million on a 20-year-old from another league. Oh, do you know what? I actually don't think we should be spending 90 million at least on someone unproven. And I also don't think it fits that ethos of what we was going for. If we was going to spend 90 million, pretty sure Sancho would have been a United player already and would have solved that one problem that we have with right wing. Which basically brings it down to the 2 Premier League experienced players. And I think generally, it's not a foolproof thing, but generally when we buy from the Premier League, Sanchez has been a big example in that, they do all right for us because we kind of know what we're getting. We kind of know the level they're at. With a bit more hindsight, maybe you should have noticed the writing might have been on the wall with Sanchez a little bit before we brought him. So you're looking at Eriksen and you're looking at James Maddison. Maddison's price puts me off because if they wanted 80 for Maguire, they're going to want like 130-ish, 125 for Maddison. And I think Eriksen's an absolute top draw player, but the fact that the guy wants to leave England as the main reason he wants to leave Spurs, he surely doesn't want to come and play for United. He's going to come out of the Champions League final and go, I'll go and play in Gdansk now, shall I? So I think it's got to be Maddison. I think Maddison fits that profile of young. The resale value, even though he would be a mad initial outlay, is probably something that the Glazers can speak about because, yes, there might be a mad initial outlay, but from what we've seen, they're not even fucking paying it. So it'll just stay on tick that we'll never pay. just bang it on the credit card, not a problem. Yeah, and then we sell him. So I actually would love to have seen Eriksen. And Eriksen's one of those 4 players that, alongside Longstaff, Maddison and Sancho, that Ollie wanted to come in the summer. If you think you add those 4 players to the squad, I think it's probably way more likely that you get Eriksen in January for the reasons that John stated. Like, you can probably flip him for a little fee before he goes for nothing. But I think that if we're going through this rebuild process, Maddison fits that bill way more than someone like Eriksen. And you never know, the disappointment of just being totally overlooked for Barkley in the England side might be something of a driving factor in Maddison. And obviously the lad's absolutely tapping him up. But anyway, that's what I think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Get yours in there as well. Your thoughts matter as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Laters.